Hello, my name is Frances Fox. I'm a trained remote viewer. All my psychic skills have been developed and watched in terms of my accuracy. I have worked in the field of government, unfortunately, because I was part of a secret program to access human potential and superpowers. And I have a degree in political science. I ran a business for 30 years that still exists. It's 50 some years old now, run even better by the person that took it over after me. Um, so I've been around the block. I'm also a victim of sex trafficking, which is a big issue because the people are still around, the groups that trafficked me, and they don't like it for me to be a public person. I just right now needed to clear something, some black magic that they did, so that I could be here and make sense and not get tongue tied or not feel sick or not feel like I didn't want to be here, all because of black magic, which is very influential. So we're going to start, not really, we're going to go back to what we were discussing in the last chat podcast, which is sex and the whole thing with the Olympics and the opening ceremony, and how honestly it's really disrespectful of Jesus Christ and the Last Supper. But there are a lot of questions that we need to be willing to ask, not about the opening ceremony. That, in my opinion, should not have happened. It's disrespectful. It doesn't, and it's totally non historic. The context is actually not true. The context is today contrasting with what was. And the name of my chat was what we're leaving behind. The last chat where I talked about sex. And we are leaving that behind. And there's a question in the Last Supper. Were all those people there men? Oh, yes, they were all men. Okay, that's a problem. And then, but maybe one next to him is a woman. That's a problem too. And another problem is that supposedly Jesus Christ did not have sex. And neither did his father and mother. Okay, wait a second. And as I tell people, if you come home with a story like that and tell your mother this story, they're going to go, you really expect me to believe that? And I think that we should be allowed and we should actually ask a lot of questions. There is no issue with anything related to Francis Fox having to do with Jesus Christ. Zero issue. Anybody who would like to say that I am trashing Jesus Christ is really not listening. And those people are a problem. They're dogmatic, they're repeating, they're reacting. Jesus Christ was a shaman, he was a healer. And that's what people should be doing all day long, learning to heal each other, learning when there is a need to be a healing. And Jesus Christ was a shaman. What did the shamans deal with? First, they remove the spirits. Oh, spirits. No, well, we're going to skip that part. And if you deal with spirits, Francis, you're working with the devil. When we deal with spirits, what are we doing? God's work? They call them liberations in the Christian movement. And it is a liberation. And when you work with them, if you're a Christian, it's okay. If you're not a Christian, then you know what? You're working with the devil. Come on. Come on. Come on. You need to be able to keep your thinking cap on, to remain intelligent in all instances, unless somebody's holding a gun to your head, at which time you'll say yes to anything. And as soon as they go away, you go back and put your thinking cap back on. Just because it's a religion doesn't mean that you can stop thinking or that you're dumb. In my opinion, a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense really has to do with translations, because the original Lord's Prayer in Aramaic supports every inch of the work that I have brought to the table having to do with the human energy system. And it also says that human beings do not need to be protected from evil, but they do need to be very grounded. In other words, enough of the earth element. But we're not going to stay on that part of the subject. we're going to jump to ETs. What's ETs have to do with Jesus Christ? Plenty. ETs don't have sex and they don't have sexuality. I don't hear anybody that's talking about ETs of them or people that have seen them or have been abducted or have any kind of personal witnessing that has said one's a male or a female. They are not. They have no sexuality. Okay, let's go back to Jesus Christ and Mary and Joseph. They didn't have sex according to the Bible. Okay, this is interesting. Am I saying that they didn't have sex? I'm not saying either one of those things. I'm saying that you need to ask questions, not so that you can turn against Jesus Christ. On the contrary, I want you to turn more towards Jesus Christ. I want you to be right there with him, and I want you to do what he did, not what was said about him 300 years later, which is when the Bible was put together, chosen, the different books by the Roman Catholic Church. I want you to be just like him. I want you to learn how to heal. And you can. It takes 2 seconds in the other dimensions. It's intention with a lot of focus and a visualization, which will come up on its own. Or if you have a hard time visualizing in the other dimensions, you invent it on your own, and then it starts to change. So I don't have any problem with the Jesus Christ didn't have sex. His mother didn't have sex, and his father didn't have sex. ETs don't have sex. The spirits that have sex, that from what I can see and understand, I know a lot about the spirit world, are the ones that are the spirit that used to have a physical body on planet Earth. And they did have a sexuality. They were male, they were female, they're your grandmother, your mother, a cousin, somebody that died in a house that you rented. And then they do have sexuality. They're male or female because it corresponds to the physical body that they used on the physical dimension while they were alive on the physical dimension. But the rest of the spirits, the ones that are coming in, the galactic ones, the ones that come in through the left ear, they don't have sexuality. And they don't have a body on the physical dimension. Now, people aren't having sex as much as they used to. Condom sales are down across the board. Japan, which is maybe one of the first nations that's going to lose their standing because their population is collapsing. When I wrote the book, Sex, the Path to God, 10 or 15 years ago, which I wrote with 2 other people, but my part of it was literally about sex. And the other 2 parts didn't have anything to do about sex, which is fine. I'm just explaining this. I looked up sex and the decline in sex because it was what I noticed. And I was like, sex is the path to God. Orgasm is spiritual ecstasy. People are not having as much sex. This was 10 or 15 years ago. So what does this mean? We don't want the spiritual ecstasy union with God? Is there spirits interfering with our desire to have sex? What is this? And of course, Japan came up as being, I believe, the country where the sales of condoms, which is how they measure the sexual stuff. Kind of interesting. Makes sense. Kind of interesting. So now we're hitting the whole population collapse thing. So we got religion, we got the spirit world, we got aliens, we got population collapse. Oh, back to the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has a classification of spirits, and the worst ones are called incubus and succubus, and those are the ones that are associated with sex. Now, this classification has to be hundreds of years old. Okay, so the Catholic Church knows that there are different types of spirits, and there's a particularly bad type of spirit that has to do with sex. It doesn't mean that those spirits are having sex. It means that I believe, from what it is that I understand and what it is that I've witnessed, they are the ones that their influence makes people create horrendous crimes that involve perverted sex. And I'm sure other things that I'm not privy to. So we've got a thread that is running through the most important issues on the planet today. The issue that Elon Musk keeps bringing up of population collapse and have more children, have more children, have more children is very real. The United States is very quickly going to go into population collapse. What does that mean? When they make deals with other countries for 20 and 30 and 40 years, they're not going to be respected because they're no longer going to be able to support themselves. The United States, I'm talking about, because their population is in collapse. Oh, well, but we need less people. No, no, no. We need people being born, growing up, going into the workforce, working, paying taxes, etc., so that when they retire, they can retire with something of an income. If you don't have kids born, going to school, and then working, who's going to support them and the people that have already retired? No one. And that's the problem. So when I was writing 10 or 15 years ago, I need to look up exactly how many years it was. I was hysterical about it. I called it the Great Turnoff, el gran apagón. And I didn't know or realize the whole thing with the population collapse. I just understood that sex is so important. It's one of the things that distinguishes human beings from the aliens. Therefore, it has to be real important for this planet. And it is. And it is. So I wanted to go back to that after everything that I said yesterday. And as I start to string it together, because I understand the different things individually, but as I start to string it together, which for me is what's important, okay? Give me a second. So the big issue, one of the biggest issues on X is everybody demanding that the government release what they know about aliens. And everybody kind of knows that they have a ton of information, 30, 40, 50 years accumulated of that information. And I'm going to keep asking why it is that we keep insisting that the government inform us about stuff that many other people are informing us about. What happened to our instincts that people can say and even produce photographs? Airline pilots, dozens, if not hundreds of pieces of evidence. And we're still running around browbeating and slapping around people from the government to tell us that those ETs exist. Why do we need that? Why are we so weak within ourselves that why is it that we're not relying on our instincts? Why is it that we can't look at something and know with the intelligence of the heart that the Greeks talked about that that person is lying or not lying? Now, today we understand with the whole thing with AI and Photoshop. Okay, so those photographs have been around forever. Before they had that whole Photoshop bonanza to where you could change anything to anything. What happened to us in this country? Because you see, that's not the case in practically all the other countries. You get together with a group, in my case, not so much Europeans, but is Latin America, etc., Central America. Many of them will say, oh yeah, I saw a spaceship when I was about 14, or they'll say, I got abducted when I was 2, or I got abducted when I was 3 years old. And I have read for many people and said, you had a visit from ETs when you were 3, you were 4, you were sitting by the window, and they'll go, oh my God, I remember that, but I thought it was just a dream. Well, dream states are actually reality in the other dimensions where your spirit is operational and your physical body isn't. So the fact that it's a dream doesn't mean it's not valid. So I'm saying all of this because everything is collapsing. And you need to be centered. Anytime somebody says you can't question that, then you know it's probably religion or it's probably an oppressive political regime. But you can't be slapping around other people that want to ask questions because it makes sense. They want to feel satisfied. And I'll tell you a short story, and then we'll go on to doing our mantras. But you know what? I think I'm not going to tell that story. You know what? I'm going to tell that story. I had a client show up many years ago when I used to see people in person, and she had a suitcase with her. And I thought, that's weird. I just came from the airport. She said, I went, okay. She said, I have this past life that was read for me, and it had to do with being I think having an affair with a priest or something like that. Anyway, um, we kind of worked that through. That past life was interfering with something that she wanted to do today, which was to get married. Um, so coincidentally, it was, I guess, on a Friday, I had a guest for dinner. I had several people over for dinner, but the centerpiece of my dinner was a priest, somebody that was actually studying to be a priest. He had almost finished. So he came to dinner. And so I mentioned to him, and I had asked permission, the thing about the Catholic Church, a priest, and sex, and all the rest of that, because that was the issue with this client. And he said to me, yes, he said, in 325 AD, in the Council of Nicaea, I remember that, not that I was there, it was decided that the priests could not get married because if they got married, then when they died, their property would go to the family. Whereas if they were not allowed to get married, when they came into the church, they would bring with them whatever property they had. And a lot of times, the people that went in to become priests came from wealthy families. And so he said it was decided to say that they couldn't get married. And that way, when they came in with whatever property they had, and when they died, it would all stay within the church. But this was 325 years after Christ. And I looked at him, and he was certainly not making up any story. And I believe that I looked it up, even though I wasn't able to find that in particular. But he learned that while he was studying in the seminary. So did he have sex or didn't he have sex? The only reason it's important is because if he didn't, then we have to classify him as an ET. His parents, at least, because supposedly he didn't have kids. So his parents have to be ETs. They have a kid, no sex. That's how ETs. So you have to keep asking questions, and you get to very interesting places. And then it all circles back up, down, I don't know, to aliens. And then we are supposed to throw our thinking cap away, not ask any questions that are iffy. If you're a Catholic or even a Christian, you can't be asking questions. It's in that book. People don't remember what I said 15 minutes later. This is 300 and some years later. And the translations are awful. You'd get thrown out of a university if you did a translation like that. So we have to ask questions and keep asking. If we can't ask authority, why are we waiting for authority? The system of hierarchy has collapsed in the world. It's part of the process of moving into the age of Aquarius and cycles ending on the planet. So why are we asking authority? Why do we need their permission? We don't. We're just hanging on to an old paradigm. And that, I think, is one of the major reasons why I'm giving these weird chats where it looks like I'm all over the place, but I'm really trying to string things together. I know this stuff, but I need to be able to give it to you in a way that's a little bit more systematic. If not, it's just jumbled up pieces of information. By the way, the age of information is over, and we have entered the age of transformation. So if you start an organization, or if you're with a group of people and they're still so proud of all the information they bring to the table, you're with an older group of people. What you need is the information that helps a transformation of that organization, that person, that situation. And you need to concentrate on your transformation. You're going to look at newspapers, what used to be newspapers, even if they're online. That's a little bit of a problem because their intention is to give you information. Well, that age is over. That's age is over. Look at the wonderful respect we have for Google now that we're not even before We found out the stuff that's coming out now in terms of how they're manhandling information having to do with the elections. Well, I already knew that from before because of my situation for 20 years. My name in Google has been manhandled and beyond shadow banned and all the rest of those terms that they use. I just kind of have had to accept it. So, age of information over. Get with the program. Get with the program. It's the age of transformation. If you are still being controlled by religions and by groups that are controlling you through pieces of information, and those pieces of information are not taking the group or you into a transformation, then maybe that's not what's going to be best for you, because you see hierarchy collapsed. It doesn't really matter where you are, who you are, doesn't matter. Something's going on with sexuality. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. Am I in agreement with it? No, I'm old. I want the old system to stay and to continue on. This is not what I want or what you want. It's stuff that has been predicted for centuries. So we need to understand what's going on so that we can work with this system. In order to have a transformation, you have to have valid information. You have to, and there we go with the whole thing about the information control. Let's get people all confused. Let's get them all confused. I just had a discussion with somebody today, and I was saying, I don't want to be this gaslighting thing and this, you're crazy. I don't want to hear it. I am not going to hear it. I've been hearing this for 30 years without being able to say to people, yeah, you think that this is crazy? You know what else the government knows that they're not letting you know? I can't do that. So I got to go, okay, I'm crazy. Turns out I'm not crazy. It turns out that when you have forward information, it can look to people like you're crazy, but there you go again. Where are your instincts? Is this stuff holding water? Okay, you don't have enough information. Don't dump the information. Keep it there. Keep it there. Like pieces of a puzzle. And it'll fall away if it has no value at all. And maybe it'll fall away because those arenas are not interesting to you. The whole thing with human beings. And then we're going to go into the mantra and the healing part of this get together. Human beings today, most people think that you develop a spirit when your physical body dies. Oh, they saw his spirit at the funeral. His spirit came and visited his mother at night. I can feel the presence of his spirit because his physical body died. Oh, okay. Guess what? You have a spirit from the first moment that you have somewhat of a presence in the physical dimension, which would be in conception. You have a spirit. You're born with that spirit. In people that are into spirituality, New Age, whatever, it's called the astral body, which is your emotional body. But it's your spirit. It releases at night and astral travels. When you die, it releases the last time. Your physical body's dead, it's gone, and that spirit no longer has a vehicle, a vessel, a container for their presence in the physical dimension. But you had a spirit since day one, even before day one, because most of you consider day one birth. It's not birth, it's from before. The fetus can remember conversations that their parents were having before they were born. Okay. So something as simple as that. Now, we're told about the spirit. I think all religions deal with that. But they don't deal with it very well because people literally think that you develop a spirit once you're dead. And nobody's asking, what is that spirit doing while it's alive? Well, in Atlantis, they learned how to enslave your spirit. And then we're now going to go into the healing part of this gathering. Okay? Let's see what mantra we should do. By the way, I think I said yesterday, we have developed a Fox protocol for a graceful transition of the governments in Venezuela. Obviously, it has not kicked in yet in terms of working, but we just got it developed. But today I went to my website to look up all the articles of all the work that we've done with Venezuela since 2019. And the Mantris, the movement was, I think I'm actually going to, you know what, I'm not going to read it to you, but I will probably do it tomorrow. What you need to know is that part of this fall of hierarchy applies to, oh my God, this is crazy, applies to political change, like what's happening in Venezuela. Do you know that I'm a university graduate? I have a degree in political science. I'm so sorry, I apologize. And I was going to get a master's. And the title of my dissertation, or my thesis, I think they call it that when you're a master's, was nonviolent, no, or violent governmental change with violence in Latin America. That's not the exact title, but basically that was it. And here I am, what, 40 years later? And I'm working on that, except that the Dolphins gave us a message. Let me see if I can find it to give you the date. Very interesting. No, I'm not going to find it. It was 2018, and the Dolphins said that if we worked with them, that they would show us the new way in politics, which is a spiritual path, which is the path that the planet is on. And I will give you more information on that tomorrow, but it was really very exciting to find that. That is on my website, and Spiritually Sophisticated Mantrista. Could you please put my website there, francisfox.com? And you can put in Venezuela. I think most of the articles are in Spanish, but you can throw it into Google Translate. And if you have to roll around a little bit to find my website, that would be typical. Google is really good at playing hide and seek. Really good at that. Okay, so give me a second while I figure out. First place, I have to figure out where I have it. Where do I have it? We're going to do the mantra having to do with, we're not going to do one on sex. I will give you a tip on sex. Sex is totally associated with the physical dimension, which is Earth. So if you want spectacular sex, you have sex with your feet on the ground. Don't ask me to start discussing positions because I'm not going to. You don't need to be that creative, okay? Why the feet on the ground? You're absorbing the earth energy, which then makes a little bit of sense that the ETs that don't have the earth energy would not only not be having spectacular sex, maybe they wouldn't be having sex at all. Okay, we're going to do this mantra. Okay, Spiritually Sophisticated may have left because she didn't put it there. So it's francisfox.com. Okay. And just put in Venezuela, and you will get a lot of articles and a lot of interesting things. And the most important thing is that they say we are going to help usher in a new age in politics. So what I was going to write about 40 years ago, a governmental change, nonviolent in Latin America, I'm now doing that. Can you believe that? Oh my God. I did not write the thesis, by the way. I dropped out because it didn't feel like any of that made any sense. So here's the mantra. We're going to go to the faith mantra again. Okay, give me a second. Now, this is a Telegram mantra. What does that mean? It means, I swear, when you have, as the kind of history I have, you become very paranoid. I swear there's a conspiracy on this platform, Restream, for me not to be able to do things correctly. They have their little icon, need help, right on top of where I need to write to be in the chat. Okay. This is, okay. This is the mantra. You repeat these words, I trust, I trust, I trust, and you send it to yourself here. You repeat it in there. I trust, I trust, I trust, I trust. And you breathe. You don't send it here. You're inside your head, because I'm doing it right now. You're inside your head. When somebody else has lost trust, they've lost faith, they want to kill themselves or whatever, just you send it to them there. I trust, I trust, I trust. And they can trust maybe that things will get better. Let me get somebody out of here, add to block list. And we're going to do the sensory therapy by Mateo Cuaron, having to do with these two chakras, which is where you're sending that message. What is this? This is a Telegram mantra, and you are going to be doing what the bad spirits do to you. I'm not going to go into the story. When you have a compulsive thought, that is not you wanting to repeat those words. Those are not even your words. It's your voice. It sounds like you, but it's not you. There is a spirit near you, probably your left shoulder. I'm trying to remember when I saw that the first time. I think it was the left shoulder. There's a spirit there that is repeating like a broken record. You're not good enough. 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 And they can do that for days, and they do that. If you're an alcoholic and you don't want to drink, you don't want to drink. That's it. I'm not drinking. I want to drink. I need a drink. They will even put images in front of you. Like one time, I have had a big issue with sugar. Part of the government program is to get you addicted to sugar, because sugar opens the door to spirits, and then you're easy to control. So I went to bed. I was watching TV or something, and all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I want something sweet. No. See the way? No. So, and it continued. And then I could see the inside of my refrigerator, and there was a piece of a pastry there, which I hadn't remembered. And all of a sudden I could see it. No. And I keep getting it, and I want sugar. And all of a sudden I just turned around and said, I'm not going to. And there was a spirit standing there. So, okay, this is my right side. It was on this side. So it could be either side. I'm not going to do it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. And then it stopped. Now, the way to take care of that is for you to start saying, I want sugar, or I want a drink, I want a drink, I want a drink. Grab it from them, and then it's over. And then when it starts up again, you do the same thing. In this case, we're going to do the trust. Why? There is so much falling apart, but it's supposed to. It's a fall of hierarchy. It's a change of a paradigm. The whole planet is going to change. So it's a mess, but we have to trust. This is a process, and we have to trust that if our frequency is not dragged down by old traumas, that we're going to make it, and we're going to make it well, and we're going to be happier, not in the process of the breakdown, which is where we are right now. But if you're aligned with your mission, it feels pretty good. Okay, a lot of messes, but it feels pretty good. So there's your mantra, which is the Telegram mantra. And if you have somebody that is feeling like they want to die, they're so depressed, you can send them that. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And just like that spirit was able to make me think I wanted that piece of pastry, you could make that person go, you know what? It's okay. Try it. It's kind of neat. Lots of power. Okay, here we go with it. And we're going to do 10 minutes. I'll come back briefly to say goodbye, because we do convert this into a podcast. So we know that a lot of people to podcast will be in their cars. We don't want them to be having car accidents, etc. So we'll come back briefly and then it will be over and we will be back here again for another chat. So here we go. Okay. I just remembered what the title of my thesis was going to be in 1969 when I was studying political science. I did drop out of my master's program. And that's what I'm going to present to you tomorrow, the conclusion of my thesis from 1969. And the thesis title, which I remembered, is Institutionalized Violence as a Form of Governmental Change. Institutionalized violence as a form of governmental change, which is what we're dealing with right now in Venezuela, which is where I wrote my thesis. And it is the Fox Protocols, a spiritual we're entering a spiritual era on planet Earth. And this is protocols for governmental change at a spiritual level so that there is no violence. Is that neat or what? You need to look at your life like that. You think that everything is random? It's not random. This is so incredible that I remembered this and that I am actually, that was my intention then to understand that and write a thesis about it. And I'm doing it today, 2024, and this was 69, 30, 50 some years ago. Oh my God, this is so neat. When you get into metaphysics, the study of first cause, when you start learning about the other dimensions, it's a lot more fun than the physical dimension. It's neat. And things that you thought you would never understand, you understand. It's a puzzle. You put it together and it's like, wow. So we will see you and we will be presenting to you the Fox protocols for non-violent non-violent change, however it would be called. I need to word it. It's Fox protocols. How to change government and to have a very graceful transition. But you got to work the other dimensions, which is what's in the program. See you. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. That's my life. But your life is